you talking about? The peace in Syria? The one that you went and you sat with a war criminal twice?
Major and 2 retired military members. 2 of the suspects reportedly received military training in the United States.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to The Struggle. Today we talk about activism for Syria and a foul assassination of a people's hero in Honduras. But first I want to talk about health care. Trump wants to toss out Obamacare, or the Affordable Care Act, as it's more properly known. In its place, he wants to put in what should be called the Unaffordable Care Act and be nice to a billionaire plan. Trump says it's a great plan. That title is shorter, so let's go with it. The Great Plan. Now, you might wonder why I mentioned billionaire. It's not well known, but one of the ways Obamacare is paid for is with some hefty taxes on wealthy people. Under the Great Plan, all those taxes would be gone. The folks in the 1% would get a savings of $33,000 a year. And get this, John McDonough of the Harvard School of Public Health says that under Trump's Great Plan, the 400 wealthiest households in America would each get a tax cut of $7 million. But remember, under the Great Plan, your rights are restored. You get the right to have no health insurance at all. The people who get hit the hardest under the Great Plan are low-income, single persons in the years before they get Medicare. The head of the AARP, the American Association of Retired Persons, and I'm a member, said the worst off would be someone who makes $15,000 a year and was 64 years old. He or she would be facing an increase of $8,400. Get that? More than half of their income gone in an instant under the Great Plan. A magical theft done right before your eyes. It's obvious something real bad is going to happen to health care this year. So what should we be working for in the years to come? The solution is not a return to the high-priced, confusing Obamacare, which after years of implementation still left tens of millions of people uncovered. What we need is what they have in Canada or Britain. No insurance at all, but instead health care provided without any bills or paperwork by the government and all paid for by taxes. In the U.S., the proposal goes by the name single payer. If it was adopted, you'd have the absolute right to take the coverage or reject it. It doesn't get any freer than that. It would cover everybody and cost the country much, much less. Ralph Nader and Bernie Sanders have been calling for it for decades. Single payer. Now, an audio interview with Hamid Imam about a protest he and several others did this week in New Jersey and an upcoming commemoration in Washington, D.C. I'll be speaking to Hamid Imam, a Syrian-American activist and supporter of the revolution who lives in New Jersey. He's originally from Raqqa, Syria. We'll be talking about a protest of a member of Congress, Tulsi Gabbard. The protest took place during an event at a Rutgers University branch in the center of the state of New Jersey. Good evening, Hamid.
Good evening, Stan. How are you?
So who invited Tulsi Gabbard to speak at Rutgers?
She was invited by an organization called Muslims for Peace, and they chose Rutgers University, New Brunswick campus as the host venue.
Why would Muslims be inviting her? I mean, I thought her reputation was seeing Muslims as extremists.
I mean, this was outrageous to many people, and I did not want to discuss sectarian issues, but unfortunately, this organization, I believe that it has a lot of affiliation with Iran and the Assad regime. I believe that their leaders are from the Shia sect, so I would assume they are supporters of Bashar Assad and Iran.
I see.
I couldn't find any other explanation besides that. To be honest, I don't have that much information about this particular organization, but that's what I know, and that's what I heard.
So how big was the crowd? Was it mostly students or adults or what?
It was disappointingly huge. I believe that they almost have about 500. Majority, I would say, were community members. Ages varied, but I believe the majority of them probably 30 and up.
Mm-hmm. So describe, well, first off, for our listeners who don't know, why would you be opposed to Tulsi Gabbard at this event?
I personally, as a Syrian American, never heard of Tulsi Gabbard till the moment that I was shocked to see that a U.S. Congresswoman from the state of Hawaii visited Damascus, Syria, to meet with Bashar Assad, a well-known war criminal, not once, but twice, along with other security officials and his wife and other ministers that were part of his regime. Mm-hmm. Furthermore, she went on to promote for Assad propaganda that he's fighting terrorists and just endorsing his policies against the Syrian people with total disregard to the lives that have been lost in Syria and the atrocities that have been taking place for the past 6 years that were not limited to chemical weapons and barrel bombs. So we launched a campaign, and another reason that this was personal to me is I myself is a Rutgers student. I'm a graduate student at Rutgers University, and I felt extremely insulted to have this individual speaking at a university that I'm very proud to be a member of, and we went on and we attended that meeting.
So you say we? How many others came with you to the event?
I believe with a few other activists, we plan to be honest, cause a distraction and just call her out on her support for a ruthless dictator. Mm-hmm. So I believe our team consisted for about 6 members.
Mm-hmm. And I've seen a video. It's a sort of a little from far away. What you had some signs. What did the signs say?
Well, the signs, we had about 10 signs. Some of these, it said, Tulsi Gabbard, shame on you. Don't shake my hand. You're with the blood. You have the blood of Syrian children, and other signs that just called her out.
Mm-hmm. So, what did you say? I saw that she spoke for a while, and did this happen at the beginning of the meeting?
Yes, it was at the beginning of the meeting. The word that triggered us rising and heckling her was peace. She had the nerve to speak about peace and stability, and I stood up and said, "Peace? What peace are you talking about? The peace in Syria? The one that you went and you sat with a war criminal twice? Shame on you." Mm-hmm. It was a heated. I can't really recall what I said. I said so many things. I mentioned that she was a hypocrite, and I went on till I was escorted by security.
Were you the only one who spoke, or did others speak out?
No, others did speak after me, but unfortunately, it wasn't caught on video.
Mm-hmm.
So unfairly, I got the credit for it, but the real credit is for my other fellow activists, who some of them planned this sort of disruption plan, and one of my friends took a video of it, so I should give them full credit for doing so.
How did the crowd react to what you said?
I was expecting some kind of support, and that's why you hear me speaking about. I told them, you are my Muslim brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
How dare you cheer for someone like that? This is Prophet Muhammad Day, and if Prophet Muhammad was here, he wouldn't be happy with you not standing with your fellow human beings and fellow brothers and sisters. So unfortunately, the majority of them weren't happy. Many asked me to shut up. Others asked me to be civilized and be quiet. It wasn't very friendly. It wasn't a very friendly reception, unfortunately.
Was there any media covering the event?
Yes, I believe so. I just seen a Yahoo News article. Also, surprisingly, the Syrian national TV has published a report about this event. They took a video. I'm not sure if they were present there, but the report claimed that some guy who supports the terrorist groups stood up against the brave honorary Tulsi Gabbard,
mm-hmm.
which is absurd and insane, and we're used to this type of propaganda by the Syrian media, so nothing that was shocking for me.
Now, before we leave Gabbard, she has a bill in Congress called Stop Supporting Terrorism. Are you familiar with it?
Yes, I am.
What do you think of it?
What I think of it, I think that was well, of course, it's deceiving, because Tulsi Gabbard just wants to completely destroy any kind of moderate opposition. And for her, that there is no such thing as moderate opposition that exists in Syria. This reminds me of a flashback for the first few days that Syrian Americans and Syrians and people around the world demanded particularly from the Obama administration, that the only faction that existed at that time in 2012, early 2012 and late 2011, was the Free Syrian Army, which was a group of defected military officers and soldiers who refused to turn live ammunition on peaceful protesters. We were saying that there are extremists who might take advantage of this situation. Assad will take advantage of this vacuum and might cause chaos and probably orchestrate some kind of terrorist cells to make it seem that he's fighting terrorists. And then he's been speaking about that since day one. So we failed to arm the modern opposition. We waited till ISIS and Al-Qaeda became the strongest one of the strongest factions in Syria. And now she wants to just kind of give the final blow to any efforts to support those who seek to liberate Syria, who seek to have a democratic, civil nation that lives in peace and coexistence with its neighboring countries and the rest of the world.
Now let's leave her. I understand you're from Raqqa in Syria, which is controlled by ISIS. Do you still have family there?
lost the majority of my family have left, but I have some relatives, just a few cousins and friends.
Have you heard
yeah.
from them at all recently?
Yes, I have. Once in a while, they go on WhatsApp, and it's like an internet cafe where they can briefly speak under heavy surveillance by ISIS. So it's just, hello, how are you, how is family, and it just ends there. So I guess they are okay. They're not dead, at least.
Mm. And then, which parties are trying to take Raqqa at this point? Is it the U.S. or is it the Kurds or Assad? I'm not clear.
I was just speaking to one of my friends that day after day things are getting more complicated. It's a huge mess around Raqqa, especially in eastern Aleppo and in the suburbs. Just that northeast area and the north area, there's so much presence. The Russians are there on the ground, the Kurds, Americans, the Turks, the Free Syrian Army, ISIS. So it is a freaking mess. But I believe that the momentum is on the Kurd side. The so-called SDS, Syrian Democratic Forces, they have closed down on Raqqa, and they're only a few miles away from the city. It's going to be a long journey to reach to Raqqa, and I believe that it will be a failed mission if these countries fail to really coordinate and sort of stop playing the political cards against each other. It's a mess. The future it's really so vague, and for someone like me who was originally from there, whose family's from there, I just want that city to be free, and I want it to live in peace and stability once again. I really don't care who liberates it, but certainly not Assad. I don't want to see Assad once again taking control of the first city that was ever liberated in Syria.
Right. What year was that? Was that 2012?
That was 2013.
2013.
Actually, we just passed the anniversary, the fourth anniversary on March 4th.
Now,
2 days ago marked the fourth anniversary of the liberation.
Let's end by talking about another anniversary, the anniversary of the start of the revolt. So there's a protest in Washington about that. Is that right?
Not only a protest, we have a series of events that will last from Thursday, March 16th to Saturday, March 18th. On Thursday, we'll have Advocacy Day, where constituents have the opportunity to go to the U.S. Capitol and meet their legislatures and advocate on behalf of the Syrian people. Friday, we'll have a General Assembly TED Talk type of event on Friday morning, and followed by another advocacy dinner. On Saturday, we'll have the rally that starts at the U.S. Capitol, 10 a.m., and march close to the White House, where we'll have another festival that will honor Syrian heritage and will be sponsored by refugees to really show the true meaning of being a Syrian refugee, and that our culture and our civilization is rich, and it's not as demonizing as Mr. Donald Trump and his gang has been trying to portray us as.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the summary of the event, and I invite everyone around the U.S. to join us.
Who is the
www.therevolutionunitesus.com.
Therevolutionunitesus.com. Is that right?
Yes. And that's the theme. That's the theme of the event.
And who is the main sponsor? Is it the Syrian American Congress, or is it other groups?
It is. It's a coalition of many Syrian American organizations, in addition to the Syrian American community, who work as just independent individuals.
Well, one last time before we go, the website for people interested.
It's www.therevolutionuniteus.com.
Well, thank you very much for talking with me.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Sam.
We next go to a Democracy Now! Report. Evidence that the murder of Berta Cáceres last year is connected to Honduran military trained by the USA.
This is Democracy Now! I'm Amy Goodman. We end today's show by remembering the renowned Honduran environmental activist Berta Cáceres, who was assassinated a year ago in her home in La Esperanza, Honduras, just before midnight, March 2nd, 2016. Berta Cáceres was the co-founder of COPIN, the Civic Council of Popular and Indigenous Organizations of Honduras. In 2015, she won the prestigious Goldman Environmental Prize for her decade-long fight against the Agua Zarca Dam, a project planned along a river sacred to the indigenous Lenca people. On Thursday, hundreds rallied outside the Honduran Supreme Court building to demand justice for Berta Cáceres and for the license of the company behind the Agua Zarca Dam to be revoked. 8 men have been arrested as suspects in Berta's killing, including 1 active Army major and 2 retired military members. 2 of the suspects reportedly received military training in the United States. Also Thursday, here in Washington, D.C., Georgia Congressman Hank Johnson reintroduced the Berta Cáceres Human Rights in Honduras Act, which seeks to withhold U.S. military aid to Honduras until the Honduran government addresses human rights violations by its police and security forces. We're turning now to a new investigation that reveals further ties between Berta Cáceres' killing, Honduran military intelligence, and the United States. Joining us from London is Nina Lakhani, a freelance journalist who's been based in Mexico and Central America for the last 4 years. Her piece in The Guardian is headlined, Berta Cáceres' court papers show murder suspects' links to U.S.-trained elite troops. Nina, welcome to Democracy Now! What are those links?
So the US over the last decade or so has really focused a lot of its military training in Central America on special forces. We know that over a period of, I think, 5 years, 2008 to 2014, the US went 21 times to Honduras to train their special forces. 2 of the military men who have been charged with her murder and the attempted murder of Gustavo Castro were special forces. So Major Mariano Diaz, who was he is a veteran special forces officer, at least 7 years according to his military records. And also Sergeant Henry Hernandez, who had left the military in 2013, but he was special forces, 3 years in the special forces, and worked under the direct command of Major Diaz.
And what about Douglas Giovanni Bustillo?
Bustillo, he did receive some training just before, as a cadet, I believe, just before he finished his initial military training. Both him and Diaz, who entered the military together, both went to the US to receive training courses. Bustillo was he did some early training in the School of Americas, I think back in 1997 it was.
So talk about the evidence that you've seen, from text messages to phone calls, and if you can recreate for us what you think took place.
So the evidence really points to, I think, a very well-planned military operation really that took place that night. What we know from witnesses is that there is a police and military checkpoint as you come into Esperanza. And that night, many witnesses have told me and other investigators that there was no one there that night. There was no one at the base that night. We know from phone records and we know from testimony that Hernandez and Bustillo, who knew each other from working in private security. So they in the months leading up to Berta's assassination, had been working together in private security. We know that they were in La Esperanza at least 3 times in the weeks leading up to her murder. And And so the way that the at least 4 people were there that night. Hernandez admits to being there, and at least 3 other civilians who have been accused of the murder are placed at her house because of telephone analysis. They went in, they knew what they were doing, they knew where they were going. All the evidence points to that. The house, inside and out, had been under surveillance, that they'd been there several times. Her house was sort of set back from the main gate. It's a guarded entrance. It was a private community. There was a guard there that night who, it's very likely they had communication with him. I'd met with him before because they came in. It was very dark. It's an isolated place. They went in. They knew where the door was. They knew where she would be sleeping. So the evidence points to that. That her house and the area surrounding it had been surveyed, had been studied beforehand. And all of that points to really like a military type operation.
It goes on for a few minutes more about details of the murder, but I want to go back to Democracy Now! Last year.
Let's talk about Honduras. I want to go to Hillary Clinton and the 2009 coup in Honduras that ousted the democratically elected president Manuel Zelaya. In her memoir, Hard Choices, Hillary Clinton wrote about the days following the coup. She wrote, quote, "In the subsequent days, I spoke with my counterparts around the hemisphere, including Secretary Patricia Espinosa of Mexico. We strategized on a plan to restore order in Honduras and ensure that free and fair elections would be held quickly and legitimately, which would render the question of Zelaya moot," unquote. Since the coup, Honduras has become one of the most dangerous places in the world.
Remember the years when Obama had first become president. Latin America was pulling away from decades of dictatorship and moving to the left. Then the military overthrew the elected government in Honduras. Instead of demanding the military stand down immediately, Clinton and Obama ignored the coup and collaborated with it, and helped turn Honduras into the murder capital of the world. And Berta Cáceres and others pay the price. Her blood is on their hands. That's our program for today. See you next week at this time. I'm Stanley Heller. This has been The Struggle.